Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make a top-down web in Google Slides. Now there's a lot of different ways and tools to make top-down webs. I think the best tool is Inspiration, and I'll have another video about Inspiration in the future. But to do a quick one in Google Docs, especially if you don't have a full computer and you have a Chromebook or tablet or phone, or you just want to do it in a collaborative way so other people could be working on the same top-down web, or if you want to assign it through Google Classroom so that you could see, assign that to students to make their own copy. This is a great way to do a top-down web. I don't recommend using a regular Google Doc for a top-down web, even though the tools are very similar. It just doesn't work as well. Word documents and Microsoft Word documents are made for paragraph writing, and it doesn't really like it when you're trying to put pictures or these kind of things into it, because it wants the text to go around it, and it just gets a little funky, and it's hard to move around. Whereas a Google Slide is great for this kind of activity and document because it's made to have objects put on it and moved around easily. So I recommend using Google Slides for this. So let's get started. So you would first create a new Google Slide. I usually start with a blank Google Slide, either page or a document. And I usually start with a blank layout. So if your layout is something like this to begin with, you could change the layout to blank. So what we're going to be doing today is something like this. So this is kind of my generic one here, where we have a topic, subtopics, and details under each of these. And the great thing about this is if I move one of the objects, see how it stays connected? That is the beauty of doing this in a Google Slide, because all these things are connected now, okay? Inspiration will do more, but this is a good kind of happy medium between Inspiration and doing it on paper, okay? So let's start with a blank one. So first, I'm going to use primarily these things up here. The one that looks like a circle in a square, that's called the shape tool. And when you click the shape tool, you'll get a drop-down list with a lot of different shapes that you can use. So I'm going to just choose like I usually use the rounded rectangle, but you can use any of these. And I'm just going to put my topic up there, and let's say we're going to do the topic of music. Okay, I don't usually change the formatting of stuff. I have how stuff looks. I try to get my data in there first. So I like to start with getting the first shape to be the right size, and I do like to center it as well to make sure my text in there is centered in the middle and not to one of the sides. The beauty of this is once you create one shape, you could just click on it and then Control-C, Control-V, and it'll make a copy of it. And now I can make other shapes below. So I'm going to make I'm going to say genres, and I'll make another one, and I'll put instruments, and I could always make this bigger if I need to. And then and maybe I'll say musicians. Okay, and then under each of these, I could then put, so like I could put grunge. Like, I'm gonna make a copy of this one so it's closer. I could do rock. I could do pop. Actually, I'm gonna do these in a row here. And then I'm gonna just make a copy of that and move it under here, and I'm gonna change these. So we're gonna say piano, guitar, bass, and maybe I'll add another one. You could always add more if you need to. So I'm gonna do another like drums. Okay, and then musicians, so I'm gonna say Pearl Jam. They're awesome. We could put Elton John. We could do Lady Gaga. Okay. So there, and I have some boxes here, obviously, and I could put more if I want to. Now, once you have all your like sub information or your details in there, now we can start formatting and making connections. Okay. So what I did is I like obviously added some more stuff, but you can see some items are too big. So now I'm going to format. So what I usually do is if you draw a box like with click and drag your left click button on your mouse, you could select everything at one time. And so I'm going to make these a little small. I'm going to make the font a little smaller, and I'm going to make the boxes a little smaller just by pulling it a little. And I know it looks a little crazy right now. And then I could select specific areas and move them as needed. Okay, so now we're going to start making connections. Move this over. Move this over too. Okay, so I do my connections first, and then I do the coloring and formatting and stuff like that. So connections are right next to the shape tool. It's this little guy. If you point to it, it says line. And if you click the drop-down list, see there's all kinds of different lines. But I'm going to use basically, I'm going to just use for today a curved connector. And notice when I have a line or some sort of connector selected, I'll get these purple little shapes. But I'm going to end up clicking over here off to the side in the white area. This gives me a little more flexibility. So what I want to do is I want to move the one line. So I'm going to click and drag this first end and move it on top of the purple dot of one of my main topic. And that's connected to the top. And then I'm going to connect it to each of my subtopics. And once I do that, you could see if it's connected all the way, if I move it, it will move the whole line as well. So I'm going to click on that line again and Control C, Control V, and do the same thing. I'm going to go move the ends to each purple dot. And then I'm going to do it for my subtopic here. So now I have my three subtopics and they're connected. I'm going to do the same thing to all the ones below. Again, I'll connect to genres. And then I usually go from top to bottom versus the sides. But it's up to you how you want to do it. And just connect. And keep going until they're all done. And I don't know if you noticed, but under rock, I have 4 sub topics under there. So I'm going to do that one too. So just continue until all of your connections are done. So one of the other things you could do, I always make my details or sub-details a little smaller so that I could have more flexibility in moving them around. And you can see I kind of line these up so they're stacked on top of each other. But if their font is 2, if it's still not, okay. So I just make them small enough so you could see that they're different and it's a sub detail, but I line them up. And if you want to get them perfectly lined up, you could select your list and either under arrange here, you could say align in the center and it will line all them up perfectly that way. So instead of eyeballing it, that's one way you could do that. You could also select them all and then right click and go to align as well. And that's another way to do it. You could also stack them differently. So if I move these again underneath, I could just select, right click, align horizontally, and you could do it to the left or to the right, however you want to do it. I usually do center though. There's another tool here where it says distribute. Distribute is really good too because you could see here they're not spaced the same way between each one because I kind of just moved them there. So if you hit distribute and you could say vertically this time, it will put the same spacing between each one. That's a really cool thing to do to quickly make it look similar. So I'm going to put that there and then I'm going to finish making my connections. Now, once I have all my connections made, as you can see, I've done that here, I could then start to change how it looks. And because that's really important to some of us. So you could click on any of the boxes and you will see over here, there's a little paint can. The paint can is the fill color for that. So you could change the color. You could also go to the font color and change that as well. And you could do things like change the size or the font to make it look fun. Okay, so that's up to you. When you click on a box, you could also change, next to the paint can is this little line color. And the line color is the line around the border around your box. So for instance, if I do that, I can make that red, but then I could also see these like lines here. This is the weight of that line. And I do change this when I'm doing top-down webs. So I usually make them 3 to 4. You can see the fatter it is, it might be too fat, but I do like to do usually 3 or 4 because it makes it pop a little. Okay. And then if you want, you could select multiple boxes at the same time. So usually I do it by genre or by topic. So I'll select all of those and make those all the same. And here's another tip. If I select all these, let's try it again. It's selecting all the lines and the boxes here, but let's say I only want to color the boxes. I could click on a box, hold the control key down, and then click on multiple boxes, and it will only collect the shapes versus the lines. And when I do that, I'll get the little fill paint can, and I can make those all change at the same time. I could do the same thing with the lines. So if I select my lines here, I can make them all like size 3. Or I could select all these and make these all size 3, even the boxes around the shapes. And then I can make those all like blue around so that it looks like that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing to my other areas here. So I'm going to change all my lines first to, let's make those purple, and I'm going to make them a 3. Oh, don't forget that one. And I'm going to do the same thing with a different color for this side. Okay, and then I'm going to just change my color by holding the control key down and selecting my boxes. And I'm going to, I don't think that one, let's make it pink instead. And then, oops, so I could do that, click that. And I'm going to make those, let's see, purple on the inside. So now I have a nice, lovely top-down web. Okay. The nice thing about these is, again, if I decide to move, it's going to move all the lines connected to those. If I decide to move these, I can. I can do that. So it will let me move things a little easily around the page without disconnecting my lines to them. Okay, and just like with any Google slide, you could also change the background color. So if I want to make this green, I could do that. And again, you could do a lot of different kinds of top-down webs with these, with different types of lines, whether they're curved, straight lines, or with little like angled connectors. It's up to you how you want to make your top-down webs. Um, but it is really easy to do, and especially if you're a teacher, you could then share something like this with students as a template that they have to then fill in. So you could create a template for a student and a starting point, so you're going to be the one to can do all the connectors without making the students do that. Okay. If you have any questions about creating top-down webs, please let me know. It's really easy to use and much easier than using Google Drawing or trying to do it in a regular Google Doc. And we'll share more about inspiration on a future date, which does even more than this.